All right, I am here with the new head coach of Westfield football, Coach Miracle. Is that still crazy to wrap your head around?
It is, Ron. Thanks for having me, and definitely just bittersweet. I've been with Jake for 17 years, got the opportunity to play for him at Wabash, and now just so thankful, grateful for the opportunity. But obviously we're going to miss him, and just so thankful for what he's built in the entire Westfield community.
Yeah, totally. I want to start from the beginning with you. Just growing up, what was your background like, just growing up with football in general?
Sure. I grew up in a football town. So Hobart is up in the region, and growing up, that's kind of what everybody talked about. My dad actually was probably one of the best players to come through Hobart, so there was kind of high expectations. He played at University of Wisconsin on a scholarship there, so just growing up, that was kind of part of the deals. I always had aspirations to be a part of the football program. And growing up in that town was phenomenal. Had so many different coaches that impacted my life. That's probably why I really wanted to get into teaching and coaching, certainly. And then from there, just wanted to continue. I loved playing the game and thought maybe teaching, coaching could be my future. So I went to Wabash College, and that's where I had a great experience my freshman year. A guy by the name of Chris Creighton, who's up at Eastern Michigan now. He's their head coach. And then guy Tom Allen, who was at IU here recently. They were on staff and just were about developing people, and you saw the high character program. And then Coach Gilbert's on staff, so that's where we first connected. And there was a change. In my sophomore year, Coach Creighton left, and that was kind of difficult too. But Coach Gilbert was there in the process. We got to become close. Felt like really got my first crack maybe at coaching, leading the scout team and doing some things, even my senior year there. And then just kind of had some discussion. I was like, I needed to do my student teaching. I was actually scheduled to go back up to Hobart to do that. And Coach Gilbert decided, hey, I'm going to get back into high school, again. And I called him up, and within a matter of probably an hour, they had me scheduled to come in here and do my student teaching. So since then, it's been a great 13-year ride here. Been just blessed to be a Rock, and just the way everybody, from teachers in the building to staff to admin have built into me over, this 13-year run. So excited for an opportunity to hopefully give a little bit back too.
Yeah, and just like going back to what you were saying about, how you met Coach Gilbert and all that, just how has your relationship evolved in, the last 13 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. Very thankful. I think over time, you looked at it as it was the player-coach relationship, and you're kind of using that as a role model and just seeing how he can grow you in different ways, maybe with football in particular. But then it kind of built, and as our lives have changed too, as we started to have kids, so we got 3 little ones of our own. Now you look to him, and he was certainly a mentor in a lot of ways, not just as a football coach, but also as a dad, as a husband, and just how to do life in general. So that probably evolved, and then I think the last couple of years, he's kind of had some other things, where he's explored a little bit and has just given me more and more responsibility to develop as a coach. And it became maybe more us kind of doing this a little bit more in unison together, which has been, just such a blessing for me too.
Yeah, and in the last 13 years, this head coaching opportunity kind of came out of the blue, but just did you ever have the thought in your mind, like, I want to be a head coach of a high school football team?
Yeah, I think that's always been a little bit of an aspiration, but I always, would say the best job is where your feet are at. And I firmly believe that. Like, I've loved every minute of whether it was a role way back when of being an offensive coordinator for the freshmen, to being at the JV staff, to, graduating, and now you're into the varsity role, defensive coordinator, which kind of held for the last 10 years. And there's been some things, some people that have reached out over the course of time, and we've kind of, just said thanks, but no thanks. Just didn't feel like it was really the right fit or right timing. And we've just been, grateful for this, and certainly wanted to be prepared if an opportunity presented itself that, hey, we can keep some continuity and we can make sure that we're there for the kids. Above all else in the transition, really just want the kids to know that, hey, we care, we're here for them. Because, again, I've been in that role too as a player in college, and change is just difficult on everyone. That's just how it goes, especially with Coach, who's just done such a remarkable job over the years here too.
Yeah, and not only that, with like a lot of like seniors this year who are used to Coach Gilbert, now you're the man in charge. But what's your mindset coaching like incoming freshmen too that really don't know the system very well?
Sure. Well, I think I take it a little bit further here and say one of the blessings of being here 13 years is, when you're hearing from alumni and different guys that have played for us, like once a Rock, always a Rock. Like they get to come back. Guys that are maybe graduating seniors this year, hey, you're still attached to the program. Like come back next year, anytime you want to see a practice. And then you look at the guys that are in our program now, our seniors, I'm trying to tell them, and I would use this on defense a lot too, but it's not like it's my team or our staff's team, it's the players' team. So they're going to make it what they want to make it this season. And they're great senior leaders. We're in great hands. And then when you look at the freshmen coming up, it's one of the biggest classes we've ever had. There's going to be about 80 freshmen, which is really exciting. We've been down there to just go help them out with weights. A couple mornings a week at the middle school. Our middle school staff does a phenomenal job, and we're grateful even now they can get into lifting with Coach Henson, Coach Crabtree down there. So we're hoping they feel still connected to the program. I've been able to see some of these guys at the travel level, some of the WYSI stuff as well.
But no, when you got the news that Coach Gilbert was going back to Wabash and you were going to be the next head coach, what was going through your head in that moment?
Sure. I think a flurry of emotions. For starters, I did graduate from Wabash, so I'm very excited for them.
Yeah.
I know he's the right fit for that job, and he's going to do excellent things, and it's going to be just a different avenue for him to build into people and community there. Obviously, you wrestle with, okay, wow, the timing. Like we kind of knew maybe on the radar at some point, whether it was here or, if God was calling us somewhere else, then maybe we would have to take a jump to lead a program. But when it's final and it's, hey, now we're really starting this process, I think it's different, and even though it's not going to necessarily change in terms of your character and how you live your life, I do think sometimes people maybe interpret things different. Now, hey, you're in charge, so there's people who have been reaching out, and that's been great. We've loved all the support here, but certainly things happen a little bit faster pace.
And I mean, what Coach Gilbert built here at Westfield, unprecedented in his 13 years here. Is there any kind of pressure to fill those shoes from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I think pressure is a privilege. When you have high expectations, and maybe that's part of the background of growing up in Hobart where you had high expectations. I mean, that's what people did. They won for years there at Hobart, and then you go to Wabash College where if you lose 3 games, it's a bad year. And now you step into this role where we've built things for 13 years, so there are high standards. So we're not saying everything's going to be perfect all the time, but we're going to work our best. And I think if we're always operating with the kids' best, whatever decision we make, and we're putting everything we have into it, we're going to continue to be family-based. That isn't going to change about our culture. Yeah. We're going to do that for a process of how we outwork and outlove. So there will be a lot of continuity. I think that the role now is more, let's evaluate and let's see how do we make things maybe 1% to 2% better in everything we do, and just try to take it to that next level.
And you talked about pressure kind of being a privilege. I mean, you're an AP Psych teacher, and just having a great mindset's it's huge in football, obviously. Just how does that benefit you as a coach?
Yeah, it's something I've always loved. Probably looking back as a player, I wish maybe we would have talked about it more, because there was high pressure. I played the position of quarterback, again, in a town that really loved football. So there were moments where people loved you. There were moments where people are probably screaming at you from the stands, and that's probably not going to change all that much either. I think some of the pressure too is maybe just our family understanding that dynamic. Our little ones are maybe too small yet to know all the impact of that, but certainly having a coach's wife like Renee is a blessing, and I know she's a huge support too. But yeah, I think the mental side is going to be really valuable just to help players. You see it in the classroom, even in AP Psych or whatever classes we're taking. It's a tough school. I mean, there's a lot of pressure for kids to make honor roll, to get prepared to be in this college or be part of this club. So hopefully this is just another way that we can, help them manage some of those high expectations.
Yeah, and speaking of high expectations, the team you're leading this year, very high expectations, came one place short of the state championship last year. A lot of key players stepping up into big roles this year. What is something you plan to do this year that maybe wasn't done last year?
Yeah, I think you go back, and we always evaluate every end of season analysis, and what went well. You don't want to get away from that too much, be a prisoner of the moment, but also what can you take to the next level. And I think guys just having that experience, we've had a pretty good run here over the last 4 years in particular, and those experiences of being in sectional finals and semi-states and regionals, those add up over time, and players feel confident in those big pressure situations. And for some guys, they have to learn it a little bit on the fly. I remember my first, instance just calling a game in the state finals. People can say, it's just another game. It's not. We've been there 4 times, so when you're in those situations, you learn it's maybe a different game or a different feeling, but what you're asked to do is very similar. So we get back to some of those, mainstays in terms of our mental training and our game planning, and we'll continue to push. But again, this senior group, they're built for this. They're ready. They're competitors. They want to compete. They want the pressure of it all. So we're excited to kind of hopefully get out of their way and let them lead, and really take this team, and we'll see where the chips fall. I mean, other teams get a say too, but we're going to put our best foot forward and feel pretty confident in that.
Yeah, and then looking at the schedule, you're playing a lot of great teams. Just what's the mindset looking at the schedule? I mean, you got Center Grove week 1. I mean, right off the bat, it's a tough game. Just how do you plan to take that day by day?
Yeah, I think what you just said there is very valuable, right? Day by day. It is a process. I think you look too far ahead, and that can get you beat because you're not doing the things that you need to every single day. I have a phrase, I say this a lot, champions before championships. We got to build champions here in this offseason. How we do things from a championship standpoint, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's just how we serve the community, how we go about, the weight program. But all those things, if we can really develop at a championship level, we're confident that we'll be able to piece it together. And, we're going to face great competition. So when you have that week 1, I think you also have an opportunity to have a great off season, especially in the summer, because guys know, hey, we got to be ready to play week 1. So that is a challenge for us to know this is, going to get us ready for the big picture as well.
Yeah, and finally, my final question. If you have anything to say to the community of Westfield and fans of the team, what would you tell them?
I think just over the last 13 years, they've been so supportive. We're hoping that continues. We want to be a presence in the community. We're into this, like my wife and I, in particular, coaching is our ministry. We're here to hopefully give back to kids and be there to support them, whatever life struggles they may be going through. And football is just kind of a vehicle to do that. I love seeing on the Friday nights, the crowds come out there. I think we have the best fans in the state. Maybe I'm biased to that, but I certainly think when you see our students, they travel well. They're always, ready to go and really energize our team. So we're going to need the support, early on, especially these high-profile games. But we're just excited, and thankful for the community we live in.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I mean, it's going to be a great season next year. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate you.